Hey guys, welcome back to the Degen. It is the 20th of March. I'm saying the dates because it'll often take us a few days to upload this.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Hayden. Obviously, you'll probably be aware of that if you're listening at this point of our creation.
Some might call you Dos, though.
So, yeah, but I have never called myself Dos.
What does your mother call you?
Hayden.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Tom, I'm joined by my co-host, Tom. How are we going?
Mate, great. It's Sundays are podcast days. It's the Sabbath. It's the holy.
Yep.
It's what we do in the Degen Den.
It is. I'm really looking forward to continuing these. So we thought it would be a good idea. We were just wondering about how we should structure this show. And we were thinking it would be a good idea at the start just to have a quick look at the markets, what they're doing. So I've been following a little bit, not too much the past couple of days, but we've actually done quite well. We've bounced off our lows and we're heading towards the top side of our range. I'm going to talk a little bit of TA here, just very light, technical analysis.
I was about to say, for all the students out there.
So basically and I guess, we touched on it briefly last time, but it's super important to look at Bitcoin to see what the market's doing. Everything's tied to Bitcoin. In crypto, everything's tied to Bitcoin. So you need to understand Bitcoin. That will be
It's like a market indicator, right?
Exactly.
And right now, most projects are coupled to it, so that the price action is dependent on that market indicator.
Exactly. So right now, if we look at the what's happening for Bitcoin recently, like in the past week and a half, after the war happened in Ukraine, there was the upcoming Fed meeting where they raised interest rates by 0.25%. Inflation numbers came out. So kind of in preparation for that, and like when we weathered that storm, Bitcoin went down to 32,900 was as low as it's got. I think that was on the day of the war. Everything was crashing. Yes. All the normal markets were crashing.
Huge macro environments changing, a whole lot of uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty in normal global things, we see uncertainty in the markets, and therefore investors want risk off rather than risk on assets, and risk assets take a plunge.
Exactly right. And that won't, I guess the idea behind Bitcoin as well is the idea that won't always be the case, because I think Bitcoin's next narrative is a safe place to store your value. We saw a tiny bit of that. Gold has done well. Yeah, gold has actually done quite well. Peter Schiff, the gold bug, he's very happy because everybody's ripping on him for how steady gold has been the past decade, and now it's been pumped up. So he's very happy. I've seen some interviews with him where he's got a big smile on his face.
Well, yeah, with uncertainty of financial institutions and what your money's actually worth. I mean, the weaponization of the SWIFT system, I think some individuals, companies, sovereign nations are kind of thinking, well, okay, actually, how do we consolidate wealth?
Yeah.
If it's manipulated by people, even at that grand scale. So
definitely.
Storage of wealth is important.
Yeah. So I feel like that narrative's going, people will end up with that narrative with Bitcoin. But for the moment, it hasn't fully captured that yet. It's still, like you said, acting like a risk-on asset. But basically, when we're looking at technical analysis, and I'm a complete newbie, by the way. I don't have a full understanding. I just watch a lot of content around it. But it looks like we're ranging from the 32,900 to the 45,000. So I'll show Tom my screen. You see it's been up and down in that range, I guess.
It has. It's been a period of sideways consolidation.
Yeah, exactly. So what's interesting is that we're heading towards the top side of our range now. We're sitting right now at 41,800. The top side of our range is 45,000. So if we can break that and continue on with that, then it's suggesting we're going to go to higher price levels, obviously, right?
And to understand that further for all three listeners at home, it's that if certain indicators are met, then therefore it will be X price action. Is that the best way to describe it? If these conditions are met, X will happen, not that X will happen, right?
Exactly. That's technical analysis. Like, it's not going to tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It tells you what's happened in the past when this has happened and looking at that. So you can look at, I guess the whole game of technical analysis is trying to find signals that are very reliable. Where like every time or nearly every time this happens as a result of that. And interestingly, one of the Crown is a guy I follow for technical analysis, and he's talking a lot about exactly that, a signal that's flashed that every single time in the past or the past couple of years at least, that Bitcoin's flashed this signal, it's led to either like 45% upside or downside continuation. So there's a saying in technical analysis that volatility is direction neutral. So your volatility indicators, the thing that are telling you like when volume is going to come in, it's really interesting. It's not actually, doesn't really tell you which way it's going to go. It just say it's going to come. We have not had volume and now we're going to have volume. Right. It's like ebbs and flows.
And volume is buy orders, buy pressure.
Yeah. Money in the market, people buying and selling. So what's happening now is we're actually at a very low volatility stage, which makes sense, right? There's the war, there's all that stuff we mentioned before.
Low volume.
Yeah, low volume. People aren't really trading Bitcoin at the moment and assets. Like that we had that big sell-off and then we're kind of like...
risk off.
Yeah. So Bitcoin, there are some candles which are doing like, very minimal trading.
Yes.
So I guess what this means is that periods of low volatility and which this signal that Crown has found has flashed are generally followed by signals of high volatility, right? So what that is suggesting is that in the next, I think he said roughly 40 days, what we should see is Bitcoin either go down to about the 25,000, 22,000 USD level, which would be pretty bad. Pretty bad. It would be bad for the market. That would mean that none of the other like coins in the market would get a chance to actually grow and actually like have a run for quite a while. So I guess that's what happens. That could happen in the next 40 days. Or what it looks like is more likely, we're going to the upside. There's a few different signals which I do not understand that suggests, he says it's like it's like a suggestion that we should be heading for upside continuation. And like you said, there's a few different triggers. It doesn't mean it will happen. And there are invalidation points. For every trade, you should have a invalidation point. Don't need to go too deep into that. But yeah, basically, as long as Bitcoin's kind of making this try to the upside now, bouncing from the bottom side of the range on the upside, it's about let's see what Bitcoin does. If it can break that range to the upside, it could go back to 55K in the next month or two. And that would, suggest further movements to the upside for the remainder of the year, start of next year.
Yes.
New all-time highs. However, we got to wait and see. It's an uncertain time. A lot of uncertainty in the world right now.
Absolutely.
Interesting stuff, though.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
There may have been one or two of our three listeners that their eyes glazed over, but the main thing is that it'll be a very interesting time in the next couple of weeks to see what was happening and see which way it's moving. Now, I would really, really like to jump in around a couple, and one in particular project that we alluded to last week. Yeah. And that I'm sure people want to know a little bit more about some specific projects that we are passionate about and do a deeper dive about them.
Definitely.
And one of them is Illuvium. And we've spoken a lot about Illuvium personally together, and really try and do our due diligence. And as we were saying last week, that we really like the narrative around Illuvium, we like the team, and we like the tokenomics. So let's do a deep dive on all things Illuvium today, what it is, what we like about it, and why we're just so damn bullish on the thing.
Yeah, love that. So basically, Illuvium, it's interesting because there's a few different ways to look at Illuvium and what it is. On the surface, it looks like it's a game. It's an upcoming adventure game, Pokemon-style adventure game, where you go out, you try and catch these Illuvials, basically Pokemon, the Illuvium's version of Pokemon. and you go out and do that in like a Pokemon-esque style adventure game, which is a great idea. I think everybody loves Pokemon, right? And then when you find these Illuvials, you engage in those battles with the Illuvials, try and beat them, try and catch them, whatever. Which that's the whole in-game economics that come into play there, about being able to buy these Illuvials, train them up, sell them to other people. That's like how the economics can work in the game. But I guess the auto battler style of game that it is, not everybody's super loves it. Like some people are a bit off.
How would you define auto battler?
It's a bit tricky. I've only really looked at it. It's kind of like, so the idea behind it, I played it once. My nephew showed me a game of the League of Legends once to get my head around it. They've got an auto battler style game, but you essentially pick a team of your whatevers, your Illuvials in this case, and you do the strategy like before the event, like before the battle, and then when the battle starts, you don't actually do anything. You just like sit and watch the battle unfold. So like your characters on the screen will be like engaging in a battle, and that's just watching it. The strategy happens beforehand. So you got to think about like the types of Illuvials, how they match up. You got to think about, what type of Illuvials go well together. Like that's all the thinking behind it. But really, I don't know. What are your thoughts on auto battlers? Like, how does that sound as a game?
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I've never played any myself, and it sounds like it's very much a more strategic thing rather than your League of Legends or Fortnite. It's very much reactionary based and that sort of stuff. So it's a whole strategic version of gaming. What I think is interesting is more everything that else goes around with that. And it's funny because the reason I haven't done a huge deep dive into the auto battler specifics of it is because the rest of the package that is Illuvium to me is just so exciting and so substantial that I think this will be the first iteration of it, and then it'll do whatever.
Why are you so excited about it, Tom?
Well, because if people sit back going, okay, they're talking about some Pokemon game, and we're talking about crypto here, like why what is some Pokemon game got to do with crypto? And you're going, well, okay, there's this metaverse thing that everyone's jumping up and down about.
Yeah.
And okay, we've got this new play to earn version of gaming. Okay, this is one that's play to earn. So it's a game that there's a token involved and you can play it and you can earn it, that sort of stuff. So that in itself, as sort of like a macro structure, is very exciting. Okay, cool. Yeah. It's a game. But what do we like about this game specifically? So firstly, like, why was Pokemon, and why is, because it still currently is, why is Pokemon so damn successful?
There's a few different reasons, right? They've got good marketing. They focus on kids, so whilst they're young, they make movies and shows, memorabilia. Like it's the full experience, really.
Exactly, and the games were successful at the start on Game Boy and whatever, because you could have this little companion that you then leveled up and grew, and then it fought other things, and then you fight other trainers and that sort of stuff. And kids love it, and as you said, there's a TV show to go along with it. And then it was all this collectible ideas. I think that's one of the biggest proponents of it, is that you can get this specific, I don't know, you can't really call it an animal, it's a Pokemon, but a specific thing that has these specific characteristics, and not only do you like those cool characteristics, but also then you can fight with other people in it, and you can train it up, and you sort of got a pet.
It's very a social game too.
You've got this pet, and it's unique, and that sort of stuff. And then you collect these unique pets, if you can call them that, right?
Yeah.
So you got people doing huge influencers, celebrities, paying millions of dollars to collect, if it's in the card form, for example, to collect these creatures, these pets that they think are cool. They've got some sort of inherent value to it.
Yeah. And I actually spent a bit of time in the Pokemon card.
Right.
Like, I spent a few hours like looking into that when card collecting was.
I remember you telling me you were going to buy some Pokemon
I did.
cards.
I bought some first edition Jungle and first edition Fossil. Packs of cards.
Right.
Yeah.
And you bought them specifically because
a few different. It was interesting going through the experience of it. Right. Like, first of all, it was actually kind of cool. I used to have Pokemon cards when I was younger. Like. Yeah. Haven't looked at Pokemon for ages. Retouch back with it, the nostalgia effect. You're like, oh, this is cool. Bought some like old school packs that ideally will go up in value, like because it's it's similar to the blockchain stuff and cryptocurrency. There's a scarcity to it. People are trying to open them up to do that. Incentivized to open them up because they're doing it for YouTube clicks, right? All these pack openings. Yes, so all these packs are being opened.
Yeah, who was it? The influencer Jake Paul?
Yeah,
or
he
was
did.
It
yeah, it was Jake Paul. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Jake Paul.
Yeah, and did it, and it was all fake. All the cards were.
No, he did a proper one. Like, he's done heaps of stuff in the realm.
Well, the one that I watched is that he did this big opening, and it was G.I. Joe cards rather than.
Pokemon I saw him talk about that.
Yeah. So, but the point there is that there's we suspect that there's scarcity. Whether there is, there isn't, whatever. But there's a speculation around scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
And the one difficulty there with Pokemon cards is, just like Jake Paul, you actually don't know, you can't verify that this is one of one. You can't verify that this is the actual thing. And then he opened the pack and he bought the pack for $1 million or more.
Yeah.
A couple $1 million, and it was actually false. And that's the other added benefit that the blockchain has is decentralized verification.
It's all on chain.
It's all on chain. It's all synonymous. You can see actually where that hash code is and everything.
Yeah, where that token exists.
Where it exists. Yeah. So you know actually what that thing is.
Yeah.
There's no pulling the wool over the eyes sort of thing there. So that's a bonus there.
Massive.
But I think there's something around collectibles.
Yeah.
Right? If we just take like a zoom out point of view going, there's baseball cards, there's Pokemon, there's collectibles. People like collecting shit that either they think is interesting or they think someone else might think it's interesting.
Yes.
And there's a scarcity where people collect shit.
Yeah.
So that's
make markets out of it.
Make markets out of it. And that's where I think like Illuvium sits, is it's a collectible idea to begin with. You're collecting these Pokemon-like things, right? So there's that I think that narrative around collectibles of cute creature things and leveling them up and fighting with them, I think is a massive narrative from a societal point of view.
Yeah,
right. So
I agree.
That's what I first like about it, and we talked last week about how we really like the team and everything about that.
Yeah.
The next thing that I really want to dive deep into it with you is the tokenomics around it is what gets me really excited. And we spoke a little bit briefly about like what are tokenomics, but it's essentially how that token operates. Yeah. How it operates internally and externally. Yeah. Right. And so it's interesting because
tell us about the token.
Well, you've got a total supply of 10 million.
Okay.
Compared to Bitcoin's
21
million, right? And so that fixed supply firstly says that it's deflationary in nature. Now, what's inflationary, what's deflationary? Inflationary is the fiat currencies that we currently use. We print more of them, and because there's more of a supply, therefore the actual scarcity of it decreases, and so we're changing the value of it based on supply and demand.
Yes.
Right? Simple stuff. People quite like deflationary systems in terms of a storage of wealth. I mean, that's what we're talking about with Bitcoin. The reason why I like that is that you can't make any more of them. So you can't change the value of your wealth by making more of the thing. Yeah. So that deflationary nature, I think, is a good protective measure around loss of wealth. So that's kind of good there. And if we can compare that, let's compare that to Axie. Okay. So Axie Infinity, which is currently the most successful metaverse game. Yeah. And I think you know more about this than I do in terms of its actual structure, but Axie Infinity went with a more inflationary economic structure with its tokens.
Yeah, they had I was a little bit across it. So they had the SLP, the Smooth Love Potion, which is what you need. That had some interesting stuff, but it's what you needed to essentially breed Axies. You needed Smooth Love Potions. So players would go and earn these Smooth Love Potions. And, you could use them for utility, for breeding, but you could also sell them on a marketplace. And those were I guess that would be the incentive for people to come and play. Like, especially if you're not too interested in breeding, you would come in, you would play, you would earn this token, and then you would sell that token. Yeah. And as a result, similar to what happened at Thetan Arena, that whole thing, which is the reward token just gets sold.
Yeah.
Some people use it for its intended utility a little bit, but it's really just getting sold. Yeah. So that's why Axie had a 2-token system, which Illuvium does as well, but they do it a little bit differently.
They do.
Yeah. So essentially, to answer your question, the basic of it is you've got your reward staking. This is where your traditional value investing token is, the Axie token, and then your SLP, Smooth Love Potion token, was the currency of
and my understanding was that SLP token there was used to breed more Axies. Mm-hmm. So people are like, what the hell does that mean? Yeah. That means just make more of the creatures that are in this game.
Yeah, right? More digital assets that you own, which you can buy and sell. Yeah.
And now the problem with that is you had more people trying to sell than it was trying to create.
Yes.
Right?
Eventually. It took a little while, but
it got
did.
There. So those tokenomics were, seemingly quite right now, flawed in the sense that the inflationary structure of that token being that, you're just creating, you're breeding, you're creating more and more of these things, so you're increasing supply, just like any financial fiat system where they're printing a lot of Axies, right? They're printing a ton of money, and that inflationary force is completely outweighed the force of the actual. So the supply has gone far too much of what the demand is. People aren't needing it anymore.
Yeah, and that's why Axie prices have.
So it's completely plummeted, right? Yeah. So it just hit its critical mass essentially, and so you look at that and go, you've got the most successful metaverse game to date that has, in revenue, billions of dollars. They've got a ton of money. It was very successful. They're early to it.
It was something like, I think that was 6 or something in terms of all-time dollars earned by gaming company, of all time.
Including traditional
gaming. They're up there with the big dogs.
Including legacy.
They're not doing anything with it. Doesn't seem like
no,
it.
but even that, you've clearly got a very good narrative. You've clearly got a decent enough team to create that.
Yeah.
But the tokenomics now have put a hold on the ability for this, obviously, a great idea to go forward.
Yeah. So in Axie's defense, just quickly, they could then go and add new utility to the tokens. I guess that's the beauty of it. If they get the chance to come back, they're kind of down with the rest of the market. Yeah. But if they respond quick enough and respond in a good way, they could actually come back.
Definitely got the liquidity to do so.
Exactly.
But the point there is that, hey, actually, even if a plan to do something, right? Even if this project is amazing on so many levels, its narrative, its team, and everything like that, you need solid tokenomics to look in the future for both positive price action, as well as the longevity of the project itself.
Exactly.
And so I think.
So why are Illuviums?
Illuvium's different.
Yeah. And tell us.
One of the reasons why I really like Illuvium is it's very different to that model. So they've got a capped. They've got that $10 million. So it's deflationary in nature, and that they're not going to have more of that token supply. They also have a 2 two-token system with SILV.
Mm-hmm.
But the ingenious thing there... SILV2 now. The ingenious thing there is that there's a burn mechanism built into the use of the escrow token.
Yes.
And so...
What does burning mean?
Well, I'll throw that back over to you, my friend.
So that token is essentially like the supply of it. Like you're removing a part of the supply.
Yes.
So yeah, when you claim your so if you're staking Illuvium,
mm-hmm.
I think we briefly mentioned staking last week. You're locking it away. You're getting paid in either Illuvium or you can choose SILV2 to receive your rewards.
Yes.
Illuvium, you've got to wait a whole year to receive those rewards, or you can use SILV2, and it's essentially using you can use it in game. It acts as currency, but when you choose to do that, it then effectively burns that appropriate amount of token on the ILV side, which less supply should equal higher prices.
Yeah, I think the numbers are something like if everyone just used SLV to do the purchases, and with that burn pressure, I think it would put it down to only a maximum of like 7 million ILV tokens, mm-hmm. something like that. I don't know the actual maths, the maths on it. But I think to explain this a little bit better, we just got to quickly backtrack and go, well, okay, let's just identify the two tokens in ILV. So there's the ILV token that you can purchase on the open marketplace, whichever one you choose, and that has two main use cases.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. There's firstly governance.
Mm-hmm.
That as an ILV token holder, it's essentially you're entitled to voting rights. That the more ILV tokens you have, the more influence you have over voting matters, because it's a whole decentralized system. That anything that happens, any decisions made by the DAO is voted upon by the community that hold IV. So that's its first use case, that you have voting rights.
Yeah,
it's a governance token. And secondly, as an ILV holder, you also have the rights for revenue distribution.
Yes,
and we'll get to that in a second, because that shit is exciting.
It is.
But just for that one listener that's still at home,
mm-hmm.
that's where you remember that. And then you've got the SILV2 token.
Yeah.
But you're going, why don't they have two tokens? It's, well, the two reasons there for ILV holding it, they also saw that they need an ability to have a token to be used in-game.
Yes.
Because those two things you can't use in-game. So in-game, what we mean by in-game is for all the purchases that you do in game, whether it's fuel, reviving your alluvial, curing shards, all the
upgrading
different things,
weapons. I heard
weapons,
too.
All the different things you do in the game.
Hmm.
There's an in-game economy that fuels the whole thing, and we need a token to be able to do that.
Yeah,
and that's why, as you said, Dos, when you stake the IOE token, you can claim your staking rewards in IOE or SILV2.
Yeah.
So that is that.
Yeah.
But what I really like is first that burn mechanism,
mm-hmm.
about that when SILV2 has been used, it burns ILV, and that's going to create essentially more value of the ILV token. Right? There's going to be less ILV amount out there. Changes that supply and demand.
Yeah. Usually positive for price action.
Usually positive for price action, because if there's less supply.
Basic economics, right?
Basic economics. But the other thing that I think is missed, that I really like about Illuvium's tokenomics compared to Axie's, is, as you were saying with Axie, with this breeding thing, is you're making more of the actual creatures. And that's flooding the market, and you're creating more of the creatures than there are a demand to be bought.
Yes.
Which messes up that whole marketplace.
Yeah, ruins the other token too.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the ingenious thing of what Illuvium has gone and said is like, hey, we understand that we need to maintain scarcity. Basic economics.
Yeah.
So we've got 150 alluvials. Pokemon.
See, Pokemon.
We've got 150 of these things. And that first edition, first generation, whatever you want to call it, that's got a time frame. That might be 6 months, might be a year. We don't know. I mean, it's pretty rough on the arts department to go, hey, pump out another one in 6 months.
Yeah.
But we'll see. But let's just say it's 1 year.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Just quickly on that, they talk about a bonded yield curve. I'm not the best with numbers here, but as Tom can see, I'm moving my finger.
I can see your finger.
Essentially, it's the more scarce the alluvial becomes, pretty easy to understand that the scarcer it becomes, the harder it is to catch.
Yes.
So they're going to add, like you were saying, those second tier alluvials, like the V2 alluvials, like will come in. But it's interesting, and we were speaking about collecting before. If you think about why did I buy the first edition, the first couple of Pokemon packs that came out? Like, first is it's a collecting thing.
It's more rare.
Well,
it's
not
more
even
rare
necessarily
because less people have it.
That's true too. But there's more to that, I think, in the the idea of collecting. If you have the first of something,
you're saying it's more an innate or inherent value because you think it's the first.
Yeah, and like we were saying before, the blockchain, you can verify. No, this is the first. This is the first version.
But you're saying there's a greater subjective value on first edition of things.
Always is. Always is.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. So there's that, whether it's 12 months or whatever. But the ingenious thing is they're going, you know what? We're not going to just allow you to keep catching these things. We're going to have the first generation, first edition, and then you cannot catch any more of these things.
Yeah.
So all the people trying to make money on the marketplace and everything like that is that, well, you go, okay, it's been flooded with all these first generation alluvials.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where it's getting close to its bottom, and that's what we're seeing with Axie. But they're going to then go, well, we're going to change that scarcity and supply dynamic because actually now you can't catch any more of these.
Yeah.
Now we've got second generation.
Yeah.
And now there's a whole other demand for second generation. And now the demand for first generation is going to increase as well because you just can't actually provide any more supply of it.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah.
Genius way to really cap an oversupply of an asset. Sure.
And as part of that mechanism as well, they got the fusing. So if you want to evolve your alluvial to, I think it's, three evolutions.
It's like evolving it. You go from a Bulbasaur or a Venusaur.
It's exactly the same as Pokemon, essentially. Right? To Ivysaur.
Yeah.
So, but you would need to
Bulbasaur
to Ivysaur to Venusaur.
Right, I skipped one.
So, but if you wanted to evolve it, you would have to fuse three of them together.
Right.
So then that adds to the scarcity element as well. It's literally so it's not even like all the available ones are there to collect. It's like, no, these things are being fused together, burned. Like you're burning three of them to create a higher level of that thing.
Yes.
But the thing with collectibles, it's not always the best card, the card with the best utility that is the most valuable. It's often, there was different things like some early editions of some really random weird cards for Pokemon ended up being the most valuable.
Right.
Like there was this weird competition card that was I guess super rare, but was signed by somebody.
Scarcity.
Yeah, scarcity. And just but beyond that, just weird little subjective things that don't even logically make sense, but that's just how it goes, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, you could have this level 1 Illuvium that hasn't been fused to the higher level Illuvium. And maybe you hold on to that. And as the owner, you can decide to do with it what you want. Maybe say, I'm not going to fuse this one. I'm going to hold on to it. And eventually, when there's not that many of that small one, maybe its price on the marketplace goes up. Maybe somebody doesn't want the fully evolved version of this thing. Yeah. So it's hard to say how that will go, but it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, so that's the first thing that I really saw that really separates Illuvium from the rest. Going, okay, you really understand the scarcity of assets, and we're not going to just completely saturate the market with an oversupply.
Yeah.
Now, before we go on into the other areas of essentially the economics around how token holders might make money and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think it's really relevant to then go, because you're going, okay, what are these guys talking about with selling on the marketplace and this and this, is how does the actual gameplay loop work?
I love it. Yeah.
In ILV to go, well, actually, how does this in-game economy even work?
Great question. So let's break it down, right? So it depends on, and there's different gameplay loops available.
There is a couple of different ways of revenue for ILV, but
yeah. So it kind of really depends. It depends on what type of gameplay you like, what type of loop, I should say, you like, and beyond that, more than what you like, but what your resources allow you to do.
But if we can give like a brief overview of going, actually, what is the main loop around how this game creates an economy?
So people who want to go and... So essentially, people will enter into the world of Illuvium, and they will be going and trying to catch these Illuvials and level them up.
I've got a dude in this game, and my first job is to capture these Illuvials.
Yeah.
Cool.
Level them up, get them to higher levels, continue, the whole
Straight
leveling.
Pokemon.
Get them as high as you can, right?
Yeah.
Then Illuvium are going to be hosting these events, these big, massive battles. It's going to be like they're bringing like esports. They're going to bring like, Twitch style things. Like it's going to be like an event, this thing. Like people are going to be talking. It's similar to League of Legends World Finals.
Yeah,
that's an exciting event.
That's the big overarching view, is to create esports events around it and have a lot of... It's a sport. People are going to be battling and versus each other. Correct?
And the thing is that with the Illuvium token, like it's going to be like the way that it's set up, it's going to be a lot more than a lot more money than your traditional gaming events. Like this is going to be like if the best people at this game are going to earn a lot of money.
Well, yeah, and the figures that we heard is that there's $40 million prize pool. For those, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, at the current price, like it could be more.
If we think about it compared to blanking on the golf tournament, just recently, that Cam Smith won $5 million prize purse, and it's going, well, that's the largest one. So actually $5 million for winning a tournament's massive.
Yeah.
And we've got this esports coming in and saying, hey, you know what? It's $40 million.
Yeah.
So that's massive on itself. But before that, we're going, well, if we can spend just a little bit of time going, how does the actual gameplay loop work in terms of the economics of the game before we even get to...
Yeah, sure. I think it's important to kind of understand how it all connects.
Yeah.
So you could be a player coming in and go, hey, I've got a lot of time. I don't have a lot of money.
Yes, very true.
Like, I want to come in and just actually play the game.
Yeah.
Like I want to go through the adventure mode. I want to figure out the skills of there is a little bit of skill to you have to kind of shoot this little bubble that pops up. And, the very basic explanation there, but a little bubble, which is an instance, which you're hopping around in this open world. You see this instance. Those World of Warcraft would be very familiar with, when you go into the dungeon for the first time, you're entering an instance. Okay. So that's a separate part of the game.
Right.
That's kind of just for you. That's separate from the main game.
Right.
So it's essentially when you hit the instance, you're going from adventure mode into auto battler mode.
Yeah.
So you hit the instance. There's some skill to that. You go in, and the skill of the auto battler is how you try and capture these Illuvials. Yes. Battle and capture.
Yeah.
So
there's an open world, and then you go into the instance, and then there's an auto battler to figure out what actually happens.
So both to capture more Illuvials, but also to level your Illuvials, which takes it takes a bit of the resource. You won't get to do this for free. You'll have to pay a little bit somehow, just to not necessarily to you'll need to have it to capture the shards. You'll need to spend a few dollars to have a shard.
Shards are like Pokeballs.
Yeah, great. Yeah. To travel for fuel, to use your equipment, you might burn fuel. So you need to buy fuel from a marketplace in order to get to the places you need to be to catch these things. So you're going to spend a little bit of money, right? But
because I think most people go, well, that sounds like a normal game. How does it play to earn? And you're just starting to touch on it there with going, what are you talking about with fuel and stuff? It's going, well, actually, the built-in economics of this game says that to do things like travel, it uses fuel. To cure a shard, capture a level, that cost. So they've allocated costs to actions in the game.
Yes.
And those costs are realized by the player.
Yes.
Which is interesting. So the player pays, let's say, a gameplay loop. I think they were talking at maybe between $2 and $10.
Yeah.
And so you do a loop, which means you've got a set amount of time, because you've got a set amount of time in the open world to go and do these things. And that's what, like 45 minutes or something like that?
Yeah.
So let's just say that roughly. And all the things to do that loop, which means that you travel there, you try and capture some of these alluvials, you do other things. There's going to be a bunch of other things. There's armor and weapons and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
All that loot there might cost a player, let's just go in the middle and say $5 USD.
$5 to $10, yeah.
And you're going, holy moly, why would someone spend $5 to play a game for 45 minutes?
Because I guess, like, for one, like, for fun, like, if the game has to be fun. Like, well, it doesn't have to be, but it sure will help it if it's fun. It
should be fun. I think that's what people are figuring out with Axie.
Yeah,
it's not fun. We're shitting on Axie right now.
Yeah.
They've been very, very successful, but it's not fun. People are playing it because it's earning money.
Yeah. And like, to be honest, even if Illuvium sucks, like, I still think people will play it because it's like the best option. But regardless, if it seems
fun, like
it's
going to be fun.
Exactly. Right. So that's part of it, but also because the money you're investing, you're potentially getting a reward from it, like a digital asset on the blockchain. These NFTs, which are alluvials.
Which are the alluvials.
Yeah, and that you will be able to claim that to your wallet, meaning you get ownership of this asset.
So once you capture an alluvial, because your wallet is connected to the server that you're playing in it, when you capture that alluvial, that's the power of the NFTs and the blockchain, is that you then have direct ownership of that particular NFT.
Yes.
Which is an alluvial. It's in your wallet. You have it. Therefore, you can go to an open marketplace and sell that
alluvial. Exactly.
And that's the loop. The whole loop economics is you're going to have a ton of people that want to play, that want to grind, and want to play that loop. And I don't have a whole lot of money, so I'm going to spend $5 and I'm going to capture these alluvials and I'm going to capture as many as I can.
Yeah.
Because on the other side, you've got a bunch of people going, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm a bit busy.
Got
shit to do.
I don't really want to do that. I'm just going to buy it when they've done all the work and whatever. I don't even know how to find them and capture them, whatever.
I just want to play the game. I want to play the auto
Yeah.
So and earn money.
So they're going to buy those. That's where the demand comes in. They're going to buy that because they're not going to spend all that time trying to farm those alluvials. And so that's the reward you get, is that you do all this work, you pay this money for this loop, and then you get a number of alluvials, and then you can sell them to the open.
Just a quick thing on that loop too, just I wanted to mention that it's another element to that loop that we were talking about. So when you go out, and I was talking about how you shoot your gun or whatever and you hit the instance, you actually get the option to spend a bit more, like in-game currency or like SRV2 or Ethereum. You can choose to either enter it and spend your time to like actually look at these creatures, or you can spend a bit of money to see what's in the instance. So you could actually get a peek and go like, these alluvials aren't worth my time. Yeah. I'm going to not go in this instance. I'm going to go look for another instance.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add that extra element.
But that's very important on two levels. It's firstly important from the individual player going, am I going to waste my time? I've only got X amount of time here that I'm paid for.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time there. But the other thing is it just adds another financial element to this loop. And that's what the team has done very well, is they've identified so many micro transactions.
Yeah.
And because you're like, it doesn't sound like a whole much, but if you've got 10 million players, which I don't think is unreasonable,
no.
But if you've got 10 million players doing these gameplay loops every single day, and some of them, if it's only $5, you're going to do that multiple times a day.
Yeah.
There's so much revenue that is generated in that game.
Yeah.
And that's what's so wonderful about this decentralization, this gamification of financial system. Is going, well, there's a base economy that is at work here that is very ingeniously laid out, that we balance the supply and demand aspect. But the players are incentivized on two different ends. We're incentivized to go and capture these things, and people are incentivized to then go and buy them. And then because of the scarcity that we outlined earlier, that seems to be a good way to balance it. And then we go from there. And then on top of that, there's all these other things. There's the Leviathan Arena. And
just land. We haven't spoken about land yet, which we're hopefully going to buy some.
Yes.
That's the plan.
Exactly. And so there's a range of different ways in-game that this economy, think of it like an economy, that this economy can generate revenue in-game. There's a ton of different ways. There's going to be thousands, tens of thousands of microtransactions every second.
Hopefully it'll work towards that. That's the hope.
With the more people that use it. So there's that. But also there's revenue to be had outside of the game. Because the team has got plans to do merchandising. Just like Pokemon. You got toys. They're talking about making movies, TV shows.
I still remember the first Pokemon movie.
Absolutely. It's massive. All of that. And it's just going to, it's marketing, but it's also going to increase the lore of the whole thing.
That's, to be honest, that's kind of the unknown out of this. Like, I think they can create like a good game. I'm fully convinced that they can create multiple good games, actually. What I'm unsure about is, can they make us fall in love with these characters? Can we feel the same way about the Illuvium characters that we feel about Pokemon? Like, I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm interested to see.
And part of that is hiring a ridiculous artistic team. And the artists are great. And the artists are doing some like that. And then the effects of what they do. And then the other part of that is really putting a lot of time and effort into creating the lore of the game, the back end narrative around why you feel so strongly connected to the experience, to the narrative, to the whole history of the game.
That's the whole thing, right? That's if you can do that for enough people, like, you've got it. Like, we're still sitting here talking about Pokemon like 25 years later, right?
I think that's what they did really well. So I think they'll be looking at that. So with that then being said, so there's a ton of revenue that can be generated in-game and out-of-game, and these guys reckon that this is just the first game, that they want to be a massive studio. I think that's about 200 employees right now, and they reckon in the next 3 months they'll have 1,000. That's ridiculous for any company. I've never, ever heard of a company that will grow that big that quickly.
Well, it's in this space too. Like Star Atlas, one of my other favorite games, is on a similar path. Like, there's just an explosion of like interest in this space, and there's only there's not that many projects out there, and it's like there's a few newer ones popping up here and there, but there's not that many. So,
and the other good thing on the other side is, how do they even fund that? Well, there's massive money coming from VCs. VCs are just throwing their money, going, "Hey, we want access into all these different areas."
What does VC mean?
Venture capitalists?
Venture capitalists, So, and I guess with that, we had a tiny taste of the experience of buying into the Atlas and Polis tokens pre-release.
Pre-float, essentially.
Very small amount, which was great for us, right? But there was, I guess, these venture capitalists, you only need to hit once out of even 100. And they're normally hitting more than once too. Like, you hit a couple, you get massive returns. So they're willing to fund kind of whatever. If you can put a good enough case to them, it's all right, that sounds good.
Well, on that, so there's the VCs there that have funded Illuvium, and they've got hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. But there's also the seed investors.
Let's talk about the token unlock stuff. Can we talk about that for a second?
That's exactly where I was going.
Oh, perfect.
Great minds think alike.
That's
right. The seed investors.
Yes, the early investors.
Different to the VCs in the sense that the early investors, so let's just say they got access to Illuvium under $10. Single digits. Seed investors early on, they put a lot of money.
It's currently $530 right now.
Yeah. So
big gain.
People are between 50 and 500x their money.
Yeah. A lot of money.
Any good investor have gone, you definitely want to take profits. You want to take money out and go from that. And that is probably was a big fear of a lot of people, because in the last couple of days we've understood that the DAO has voted on this scenario with the big question going, well, if you've got all these early seed investors that have put money into and own a large amount of ILV tokens and it's sitting at $500, what will happen to the token price if a bunch of them sell? And obviously that's going to have a negative price action if a bunch of them sell. But they themselves, which I find really interesting, presented to the DAO the proposition to extend the time at which, because they were supposed to be able to take it out about now in March.
Because it would have been ideally the game would have already been launched by now. That was the reasoning behind letting them unlock. You have the game launch, you have the economic system working. Like at the moment, you can't really participate in the game of Illuvium.
Yes.
So you have the game start, and then after it's like working, doing then you unlock
creating in-game revenue.
Yeah.
And then you
so
can
just
token unlock, and with the in-game revenue increasing, the token pricing, it's working there. We have the token unlock, and then it balances each other out.
Yeah.
So now they've extended that, I think, back to like July.
Something like that. Yeah.
But the other part of that is that one of the groups in particular that hold the most amount of ILV outside of the
core team
founders, the core team, they have come and said that they actually won't be selling, regardless of when the token unlock happens, because they feel that they would be selling early to a project that hasn't actualized yet.
Yes.
Which I think is absolutely massive news, both on the point of view going, well, the huge investors there, they got the individuals that own so much of this, I really, really believe in this project. So that's first and foremost. Yeah. Whether you believe that's good fiscal practice or not, that's another thing.
Yeah.
But they really believe in this project and saying that it's completely still in infancy. That's why I first read out of that.
Yeah.
It hasn't even got close to maturity, so they're going, no, why would we?
Yeah.
The other side of that is that from a purely economic point of view, is that really reduces the sell pressure. In that it gives you a lot more confidence as a token holder. They're going, okay, there's not just going to be a ton of this liquidity dumped on the market.
Yeah, because that would be terrible. I guess it would be bad, like, for the token price if a lot of the token just sold. Like a big chunk of it, like just sold. So having that vote of confidence.
Massively.
And the beauty of the blockchain is that, like, for one, they could even tie it like within a smart contract. Like they could end up staking this and we could like see that data on chain. But even if they just have a commitment that, hey, we're not going to sell this, if they do decide to sell it, like we'll be able to see that. That's all on the blockchain.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So essentially, like, the reason why they wouldn't want to sell is because they're not just Illuvium investors. They're kind of like, I guess, part of their value proposition is their reputation, right?
Yeah.
So if they were found to be like saying, "Hey, we're not going to sell," and then sell a bunch of their tokens, like that would just ruin their whole game, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And then you got Kieran, one of the co-founders, that has said multiple times he's put 95%.
He's all in.
Of his entire net worth. He's aped in.
Yeah, I appreciate someone like him.
Yeah,
he's just
very,
all in on
very transparent. And he's all the way in, which I think is awesome, because I think what that brings us to is understanding the vault. And I think this is probably the biggest difference that I see in Illuvium right now compared to any project that I've ever seen. And it takes a hell of a lot of balls and understanding to do this. But what Illuvium has come out and said from the start is that every single 100% of in-game and out-of-game revenue, all revenue created from Illuvium, whether it's those gameplay loops, whether it's a bloody movie, whether it's sponsorships, massive, Red Bull comes and does a gig with the esports thing. Yeah. All that revenue goes into a centralized vault that is then distributed to token holders.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because in every other company, whether it's centralized or decentralized, that there is profit, obviously, at the top to pay for different things and do things. But the people, normally it's a fairly, whether it's meant to be this or not, but it's somewhat of a pyramid in the sense that, yes, obviously the people at the top are going to make more. They created it, they designed it, they put all the work in. That's the intelligence.
That's what they get, right? That's
they took all the risk.
Yeah,
they took all the risk. It's all their IP.
Yeah,
they've earned it. They get the top. Not saying it's good or bad. It's just what it is. What I think is wild about ILV is that they're going, actually 100% of revenue goes into this vault. And periodically, obviously, you don't want to make it constant in its release of money because then people could time that or create bots to time it.
Front running is the term.
Run it. Yeah, you got it. To front run that
the
release
buy
of it,
the
so they buy and sell at different times.
Yeah. So I am interested in how that will work. Like, will it be random? Will it be decided by the team? Like that.
Well, I don't think that's what the DAO's voting on right now, and they're not going to get it perfect because there needs to be some sort of way to periodically release the funds.
Yeah.
In a non-consistent manner.
Which is, I'm sure they can work it out.
Yeah, it's like a variable release, so non-fixed variable release.
Yeah. And they were saying, so that money goes to stakers, or does that so what I was a little unsure about was whether that money, because they were talking about how it goes to the people who are staked in the protocol.
Yes.
Does it go to stakers, or does it go to is it about the appreciation of the ILV token? It will make the ILV holders will be happy because it's theoretically raising the price of ILV.
Both. This is why it's ingenious. It's not just, hey, we've got a pool of money and we're going to give you your dividends. It's not just that. That's part of it. So if you have an ILV token staked, which you can very briefly explain staking.
Yep. So you put it onto the protocol. Some are locked, some are unlocked, but you essentially commit your crypto to a protocol to verify the transactions. And so that's around incentive structures.
And the best way I understand that is my way of understanding that is it's a way for the project to bootstrap liquidity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Especially if you lock it.
Yes. Yeah. Because there's a liquidity problem with the amount of and especially with slippage and the way for people to access.
Yes.
So that's what they're doing. They're bootstrapping it by going, hey, if everyone locks in their tokens by staking, then you're providing liquidity to the overall project. Yeah. So then everyone doesn't get smashed with slippage when they try and buy.
Yeah. So I think so I don't think you lock the tokens, but because they were talking about
that's just staking. Loss. That's just staking.
Yeah. So you can do single-sided lock staking, which is essentially just confidence in the token. So I'm a commitment to not sell, like a verified commitment. You can't sell beforehand because it's locked into the smart contract. But there's liquidity providing as well.
Yeah, and that's just on a very basic level. The reason why projects want you to stake is to provide liquidity.
Yes.
Right. You're giving it back instead of the bank. You've taken money out of the bank and you're going to hold it here. The bank wants greater liquidity so they can share it around and more people can have it. So you're giving it back to the bank, but you're getting a reward.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of decentralized finance, DeFi. That instead of the big banks and big money making the cut, people get a cut.
People get it because you're actually the bank, which the bank's main job is to provide liquidity, and then people have credit and you can make money out of that.
We'll have a deeper look at DeFi and other funds. It's really interesting stuff.
But the point there is that if you own an ILV token and you stake it, which means you place it back onto the protocol, you get a reward for doing that because you're providing liquidity. Well done. You're the bank. You're just a small bank. Well done. So you get the reward there. But also what ILV, in my understanding, what Illuvium is also saying is that actually you get revenue distribution for staking on the protocol.
Yeah.
You get your
share.
dividends, your share, because being an ILV token holder means that you have a share of this company.
Yes.
And you get a share of the revenue because all the revenue goes back to the token holders.
Yeah.
Which I think is just revolutionary. It's just phenomenal.
And that's probably the reason why, Kieran and all of that own so many of the token themselves, because they kind of, the whole benefit of what they're doing is that obviously they would have a large, they are the creators of the project, so they would own a lot of the token. So it's nice to see that they're purely incentivized by the project's success.
Well, that's it, because if they were just wanting to make a quick buck, unfortunately there are so many people in crypto world that are doing that, they wouldn't have it set up the only way they can make money from this project that they've poured their heart and soul and time into for the last couple of years. The only way they can make money from that is via holding tokens. They wouldn't set it up like that, right? And so for me, that's like massive faith from the creators going, actually, and Kieran is the largest, I'm pretty sure he's the largest ILV token holder.
Yeah.
So the largest
Victoria
whale or whatever,
yeah,
he's not going to be selling, because his point is going, once you realize how much revenue this economy is going to generate, why would you sell it? Why would you give it to someone else, sell it to someone else? Because you're losing that revenue that's going to be distributed, right?
So how big could this go, Tom? Like, what I guess the question I'm asking is, we're seeing a bit of a shift. Like, we're going to talk macro for a moment. Like we're obviously in a down phase and a bear phase where, whether we're in a bear market or not, that's up for debate. But things aren't great in crypto land. Tokens are boring. Like, there's not much happening. There's not all this much utility. Are we about to see, Illuvium's meant to come out like in the next 2 months? Like, what's going to happen? Do you think we're going to see an explosion in the ILV price? Not financial advice, but like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you expect to see in the next 3 to 6 months? Well, depending, and I guess to add a caveat to that, let's just assume that Bitcoin kind of recovers and does okay.
Well, and that's exactly the point of what you just said there, is there's two different things there. The success of Illuvium in terms of its actualization as a game. And do I think that the game is going to be successful in terms of users and people loving the interface and loving the game itself? Yes, I absolutely think that's going to happen. But that is a very different question to price action of the token, because as you just alluded to, that's more than just the tokenomics of Illuvium. Now, what I do believe at some stage, I don't know when, but at some stage I do think we're going to see a decoupling of certain metaverse protocols away from Bitcoin. And the reason why I believe that is that I feel that metaverse gaming in general...
Play to
earn, right? I feel play to earn in general is a hedge against a bear market.
We've always spoken about this.
We've always spoken about this. And the reason why I believe that is when the world is going to shit,
people like to play games.
and just economic markets are shit house and stuff, and you don't know what to put your money in, whatever. It's most people just sit tight. And they just, we saw that in COVID times, that the world was going to shit and people saved historically high numbers. And so they just sat at home and saved. And in this post-COVID era of people doing a lot more stuff at home, if you have an opportunity to make money sitting at home in the safety of your home, because you don't know if bloody Putin's going to stick a nuke up your asshole, or or COVID's going to come and kill you, as Anna says it will.
A lot of uncertainty.
There's a lot of uncertainty. So people are going to be more and more incentivized, for good or bad, to be at home playing their computers, and there's a way to make money in that. So,
people play games, the amount of hours.
And then you got people playing
games
as well. You got just I was amazed doing the numbers and the research of just how many gamers are worldwide and just how much revenue gaming makes per year.
Yeah.
And I keep saying it, like, it's bigger than the music and the movie industry combined. Like, it's just phenomenal. So there's that.
Yeah.
So I just feel at some point there's going to be a decoupling there, where probably even more so when there is a downturn in the market, more people are just going to be like, well, actually, I don't know where to put my money.
Yeah.
I don't know where, like, right now, people are just going, that's why the volume's down. People are going, this shit's so volatile.
Yeah.
I don't know where to put my money.
We don't know where it's going to go. Yeah.
But I'm just going to go play some games and have some fun playing some games.
Yeah.
And then if I can earn some more money
yeah.
playing the games, well, fuck it. I'll just do that.
Yeah. The amount of money that like, you know, that games make on skins, that games make on like little emotes, like it's ridiculous. And you don't own that shit. So it's coming in a big way. And I guess this is the thing. I don't know if the world has awoken to this yet. And I think it's actually more interesting because the traditional gaming market, this was kind of unexpected. There was almost like a bit of a backlash against NFTs and the play to earn.
Yes.
Yeah, which was a bit unexpected. You would have thought that like people would be thrilled that you could actually play games and get like, instead of just spending time and get nothing from it.
I don't think it was unexpected.
You weren't?
No.
Interesting.
And the reason why is because people don't like change.
True.
Firstly.
Of course.
Firstly.
Yeah.
So we meet change with uncertainty because we are neurologically wired that way. Because change means potential danger. So just evolutionary wise, we like
things to stay the same.
We like it to stay the same because we don't need to then allocate cognitive resources to evaluate if something's
we already know how it works.
Yeah, if something's a risk, then we have to put a whole lot of resources together to evaluate it's a risk. So that's initially, we don't need to go down into that rabbit hole, but that's why humans don't like change, firstly. But secondly, this is the same thing with food, mate. Is imagine doing something a certain way your whole life and then being told you're wrong. It's
terrible. You don't want to hear it.
No, it's like, fuck you. What do you mean? Yeah. Everything I've been doing this way and I've been conceptualizing this way isn't the best way to do it. Is there's this inherent value that people have placed on a certain way of doing things because that then becomes a projection of their sense of self.
Yeah.
So if you then says, hey, the way that you're doing that is wrong, what they're interpreting to is I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So you're saying, hey, the way you do gaming and stuff, well, you know, it's actually not the best way to do it because you actually don't get to own anything and why would you play that thing?
You could earn money.
You could earn money and whatever. And it's not to discredit the fact that both are right.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously.
You can still play games and have fun for free.
Just do it for free and then I don't care for getting assets. And the other crypto world is banging their head against the wall going, yes, but you don't own any assets.
Yeah.
And you don't have true ownership of this and you can gamify all this and make money out of it. Why would you do it? Both are right. But the point here is that the legacy gamers, as they're called, the gamers that have been around for ages in the current, right games and whatever, is they've got a very deep sense of what gaming means to them. And it is going to take so long, just like any of these movements, right? Just like how it took decades for us to move past smoking. The research was there in the 50s and 60s, but policy and law didn't move for 2 or 3 decades after that.
Right.
That's
interesting.
And same with food right now. We know that certain foods are carcinogenic, but they're being still promoted a certain way.
Yeah.
Right? Because it takes time culturally for a group of people to, like, they know that it's a certain way. It doesn't matter if it's rational or, like, people know that if they overconsume saturated fats and refined carbohydrates and sugary foods, they know that that's bad for them, but they keep doing it.
It's no secret.
Right. And so it's like, you're like, it's completely illogical. Yes, because it's not about a logical thing. And that's why I feel that there's an issue right now with the crypto world going, it's so illogical. You can own the assets. You can do it. It's not about that. It's that I first had my first fantastic experience at the age of whatever playing this game, and I played this game with my friends, and I did it. It's the same person saying, I had my first Mars bar when I came home and I won the fucking running carnival and whatever.
Yeah.
Mum gave me chips and stuff. It's that familiarity of value, right? Is I'm familiar with that value set and I really like that. And for you to tell me what I value is wrong is really hard for me to change.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That was beautiful.
I don't know what I said, but I hope it made sense.
No, it did. It really did.
But I think that's what we're up against.
That's it. I think you're right.
It's not a logical argument that we're up against.
Yeah.
Like, logically, why would you play a game that's the same? And look, the other part of that is going, well, currently, right now, I don't think that I don't think anyone would disagree that the crypto games aren't anywhere near the other games right now.
Yeah,
and that's the other reason we really like Illuvium. Like, I think they've got that balance of going first to being a AAA and stuff, so people are genuinely going to play it for fun.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And they're going to really enjoy doing it. So I think that's
going to be easy to play. Like, it's going to be enjoyable to play.
Yeah. So to answer your original question, is that's the other part to go why I think Illuvium is going to be very successful. It's going to be the first AAA game, right? It's going to be the first game that is going to be hugely immersive, 4K graphics, all that's going to emulate the current games that people can get on console and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why it's going to be hugely popular and hugely successful there, apart from all the other tokenomic stuff. Now, the tokenomic side of things is where I go, I think there's going to be some serious price action.
Yeah. Like, we're at least over 3 times away from our all-time high. Just to get back to where we already were before.
The all-time high was, what, 1,800?
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah.
A little bit more than 1,800 USD, and it's currently at $500. Yeah.
About
so you're going, well, shit, even if it 3Xs, it still hasn't got to its all-time high.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Yeah.
There's something there. But what's also going to affect the price of the token is the sell pressure. And everything that we just identified then is you've got such a reduction in sell pressure.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the seed investors wanting to sell. You don't have the co-creators wanting to sell.
Yeah, the founders of the game literally own a lot of the tokens.
And then literally you are hyper incentivized with staking and revenue distribution to hold on to your tokens to get mad dividends.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would, once this thing comes up and running, and this is the first iteration just being the first game, but once we actually actualize some revenue, why would people sell a ton of it?
I guess it's interesting. Like, it depends what the token does, right? Like, because if the token goes on to then, you know what, you wouldn't, like, I'm not selling at,
and it's deflationary, so there's a scarcity of it.
Yeah,
right?
But I guess if the token becomes, maybe it does 4x from here, possible, would not surprise me. Like, then you would be thinking, oh, you know, that's just normal when you've made, like we were talking about before, like good money management, where if you maybe do a 4 times on your money, like, you should probably realize some of those profits, right? So I guess that's where some of the sell pressure will come in.
Absolutely.
But that will be reliant on the rise of the token price, which is what we're searching for anyway. And I think I'm really interested to see, I touched on it last time, but like the movement into that utility of users on the blockchain. Like, this is all incentivized by users and utility, right? The token price is not directly correlated, but highly related to like how many users are on there.
Correct.
So,
the revenue at least is very correlated to.
A lot of people are ready. A lot of people are keen for this game. They've waited. It's been over a year since it was first announced. They've seen it. They believe it. People are ready. So I don't know about you. I'm planning on playing a lot of Illuvium.
I'm going to catch me some Illuviums.
Yeah. We're going to have some fun.
Yeah. And we'll see how it goes. But I think that, like, for me, structuring a reason why I would invest into a protocol, for me, that's the best tokenomics I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, I can't fault them. Like,
there's obviously stuff that I miss, and people listening might go, this might increase sell pressure. Absolutely. We'll wait to see what happens. But compared to what's out there in the market, like especially for me, the fact that 100% of revenue will go back into this vault and be distributed to token holders.
And like, there's not like in terms of good quality games, like it's not like more are just around the corner.
That's probably the fourth dimension there is going, well, even if the narrative is fantastic, the team is unreal, the tokenomics are great, I think the fourth one there is if the game's fun.
Game's fun, and I would say first to market of AAA games as well.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. But in terms of this, why something would be successful, is going, well, because I'm looking at those three other categories, whether something's successful, is going, well, is this thing even fun to play? Because the question,
that's the question,
a controversial question would be, if Axie wasn't, and I think we kind of know this question already, if Axie wasn't play to earn, would people play?
I think there would be like a very small percentage of the players that would still play. I think they would still get like 2 to 5%.
That's massive.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking over 90% reduction of the user base if we reduce the. And I think that is something that all play to earn metaverse games need to have in mind.
Yeah.
Is that if you only rely on tokenomics of a game for the uptake in users, I think you've got a problem.
I agree.
You need to make this thing fun.
And I really liked listening to Kieran in his interview recently, who kind of said, like, I love how transparent he is, but he was literally saying, like, even if we stuff up and the game isn't fun, like we just could do a complete miss, like saying we've still got a lot of money in the bank and we've got the staff here, like we can just make another good game and like link it to the Illuvium token.
Yes.
The same way I was talking about how like Axie could find different ways to like add utility to the token and come back. They've got the money to do it. Like they don't seem motivated the same way that the Illuvium team is.
Yeah,
and also tied into it, but like through them owning all of that, like all of those tokens themselves, like they kind of have to, right?
Yeah,
they're not going to have egg on their face saying, "Hey, I could have had like several $100 million." Like,
well, and that's the thing.
If I sold all of it now,
it's questionable where they're going. Well, what's the incentive there from the Axie team because they've made a shit ton of money? What's the incentive to put that money back in and change it?
So much, especially because they didn't set out to do that. It was a surprise that it actually did that well.
Right.
Like Illuvium's different. Like Illuvium, like they know what they're trying to be. Whereas Axie are kind of like, they were first to market in blockchain gaming, really, into like made it super easy, super accessible, and just kind of a few things clicked for them, and they're like, hang on, we've now got like millions of dollars. Like, we weren't expecting that.
And it's kind of interesting because we were talking about them needing to pivot 4 months ago. And they haven't done shit.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't really looked too much at Axie, but I'm disinterested. I don't care what they do.
Yeah, exactly. And so what I like is that Illuvium's going, hey, we're looking at this team. We're looking at stuff, how we'll do it differently and that sort of stuff. And we are hugely incentivized to make this shit work because we're all in.
Yeah,
which I think is fantastic, and
that's the key part of it.
That's the key part of it, but also the way that they've set up this overworld in the game itself, with that you shoot into that instance. Yeah, for me, that sets up perfectly for a first-person shooter.
Yeah,
which is some of the most successful games of all time.
Exactly.
So, shout out to them. I think you should make a first-person shooter as your second game because you've already done all the work in the overworld.
Yeah.
So I think that would be fantastic. Any other reasons of why you're just super bullish and feel always underexposed to this project?
I guess probably when I realize, like, we're deep into this stuff, and when I see like comments and stuff, especially like seeing like they recently had a delay, like they've had a few misses lately. Right, like just a couple of could have been big ones, but they had the SLV token stuff up, which I think we briefly mentioned last week, where they nearly,
which I think is fantastic. That is exactly why that it's taking longer is because they're going, hey, we didn't quite actually think that there would be so much of this escrow token being on the open marketplace, and someone found a way
to modify. They found a loophole essentially.
Yeah, so then they got the orders in.
Yeah.
Which not only has they spent a lot of money getting the best orders in to completely audit their whole protocol, their whole blockchain, but it's also taken a lot of time. That's what people need to realize about a lot of these. If you're doing the blockchain projects properly and you're getting audited, there's actually a huge undersupply of blockchain auditors. And you're like, well, what the hell are they? Exactly. Like, what are they, right?
And they take
There's
ages.
Not many people that are very good at it that can even do it. So there's a huge undersupply of them.
Because they're also competing against the other games like Star Atlas. Like it's a competition for who can have the auditors come and audit that code. Like they're busy.
Exactly. So they've got to go in. So they're getting, there's a huge demand for these auditors come and audit your code.
Yeah.
Because just how many auditors and good auditors are there that can audit very efficiently and well blockchain code?
If you want to become a blockchain auditor, there's a big
there's a huge gap there.
But I guess with that point, I guess I'm seeing that there's some negativity coming about the game, and it's interesting. It's almost like it's negativity, but they're not looking at it as deeply as we're looking at it. They're just looking at the headlines going, oh, it was delayed. It was meant to be out end of last year. Oh, there was a hack. It wasn't really a hack, but, these narratives that kind of emerge. So I think the thing that makes me even more bullish on something, it's kind of, the traditional saying, which is, you've financial advice, but buy when others are fearful and sell when others are greedy.
Yes.
If you just stuck to that, you would do pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's an increased level of fear. Right before the game's about, we're diehards about Illuvium. We looked into this, and we're not all in, but we're gonna continue to play it out, and we're confident in the project.
Yes.
And I think so. I guess to answer your question, I think it's kind of a risk. There's a gamble. There could still be some things that go wrong.
Oh, absolutely. There's risk in any asset that you're wanting to acquire. There's risk in any project that you undertake.
Yeah. But looking at it, I think us having a good understanding of that risk and, feeling like the risks are mitigated enough, I think that's an advantage that we have that other people who aren't so into the project are looking at. So that's something. And I guess what does that mean? It's look, still over 3 times away from its all-time high. I'm saying there's opportunity in my mind to get in. Now, of course, still concerned what Bitcoin's going to do and the rest of the macro markets in the world. There's still some uncertainty there. But yeah, I think I said this last time, but I'm buying
and I like it more than, and the other reason why I would, I continually feel that I'm underexposed to this asset is going, yes, I think there's going to be positive price action, and I can't see why it's not going to be worth, a few thousand. So just the value of it. But also, if this project actualizes what it's set out to do, the revenue distribution on it is going to be pretty bloody nice.
Yeah.
Over a 10-year period.
Yeah.
Of all these other games that it makes. It's you've got a share of this company that is going to be giving 100% of its revenue as dividends.
Yeah. Yeah.
That to me makes me pretty bullish on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big one. And that's kind of what I've understood recently watching some videos. And to kind of top it off as well, I guess the idea that what we were speaking about before, how traditional video game developers are coming up with these roadblocks about, hey, we can't just completely change everything, and go, hey, we're a blockchain gaming company now. So Illuvium has that advantage, and they could get a clear runway at being the first AAA video game for a little while. There's a couple that are out there that
I don't think anything else is going to really launch this year. That's at that level.
There's a couple of different ones, but Illuvium is the one I'm most excited about. Yeah.
Well, and because that's the other thing going, well, hang on a second. Why would a company actually do the whole 100% revenue into a vault? And my understanding is that it's direct, for the most part, because that they want to incentivize user uptake. Because if you can say, hey, because that's what Big Balls was quite genius.
Yeah.
Going, hey, 100% goes back into the vault. We feel that is really going to incentivize a ton of people accessing the token, a ton of people holding on to the token, and people engaging in the protocol.
Yeah.
And the whole reason why the protocol is going to be successful is though if we have massive user base.
Yeah.
And if you have 10 million plus
that
are using it, the amount of in-game revenue that is generated with that amount of players, more players, more revenue. Right?
And we haven't, I guess the thing that the shift why we could see some pretty crazy prices possibly is because we haven't seen this much utility. Like once play-to-earn blockchain gaming comes to realization, the blockchain space has not seen this much utility in a mostly speculative market.
Yes.
So this is and
arguably with Bitcoin, that although it's a good storage of wealth and whatever, arguably it hasn't got anywhere near its actualized use case in terms of that it's mainly still speculatory.
Exactly.
How much utility does Bitcoin actually have?
Yeah.
Well, you can't use it in a lot of places yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So most of the market is quite speculatory.
It is.
That's why you're seeing massive volatility. And it's going to be really interesting in 1 to 3 years when we see it's going to start in the next couple of months with the utility of
That's
Illluvium.
what I'm excited. It's literally around the corner.
It's around the corner, but it's going to be really interesting to see how this utility gets spaced out, because what a lot of people say in the crypto space is, well, what's its PE ratio? How is it? What is it earning? What's its price to earnings ratio? Right? How much is this asset actually earning?
Yeah.
And most assets right now aren't providing a return.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about, not just with utility, but actual financial utility.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's what I'm excited to see as well, that we're going to see this thing come to fruition that's actually going to start earning as any other company would on, in normal markets.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. We're close to an hour and a half in now. Just wondering so I've loved this little breakdown of Illuvium. I'm keen to continue buying more. That's definitely what I'll be doing next week.
Always feel underexposed.
Dollar cost average being a good, well-tested. Being a well-tested strategy. What are some I'm interested to kind of change the topic a little bit in the last couple of minutes. What else would you like to see this podcast used for? What else are the things that we could explore in here?
Well, there's two main things. It's interesting to philosophize around what this whole crypto, DeFi, gamification, metaverse thing is, what that looks like. You and I are far more into the niche of metaverse than we are overall crypto. Yeah. So, what does metaverse mean? What does it look like? And you and I love philosophizing, if that's a word,
so, yeah,
around that space. And then the other part of it is kind of interesting to do what we just did now, is do a deep dive into a project and flesh it out, and to provide, hopefully, some better understanding for people out there about what we find interesting around certain projects, and really trying to look at it from that point of view of going, okay, what's the narrative? What's the team like? What's the tokenomics like? Whether you choose to do financial action around that, that's up to you. But just to get a bit of an understanding of projects that are on our radar, because we understand that a lot of people might not have the time that we so recklessly have put into this.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a good little wrap up there. So hopefully you've enjoyed, if you're still listening. If you can give us a like, a subscribe.
Smash that like button.
Hopefully, we're going to continue to do more of these if people like it. Like you were saying last time, we're having these conversations anyway. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think we just need to get a beer sponsor because we're all out.
Yeah. There you go. Opportunity for sponsorship there.
That's it.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.